Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell?
It's not optional. There's no escaping it.
Yeah. D-Book, slurp it.
Yeah.
We'll talk all about the Suns and the Nuggets. My God, coming through big. Frankly, I think the bigger question is, how insecure are Jazz fans this morning? Because I think you can't help but wonder, okay, now we lost a game. And all of a sudden, the Suns sweep. And now the Suns are at home watching like we were. And we saw how much impact that had for the Utah Jazz. So if you're a Phoenix, Suns fan, I think you're feeling pretty good this morning.
Yeah, I think you're in the absolute best position you could possibly be in. You took care of the Nuggets. You now are going to get quite a bit of rest. I think I've heard multiple people, whether it's ESPN or Fox or just any of the major names that we all listen to every day, now the narrative has changed to, hey, this series is going to go 6 or 7 games. All of a sudden, now that the Clippers won a game at home, again, doing what they should have done, just like the Jazz did what they should have done, now everyone's like, oh, well, this is going to be a 6 or 7 game series. So let's assume that it is a 7 game series because that's what I think is going to happen. I think it is going to take 7 to get by the Clippers. The Suns are just sitting there like, all right, cool. Now we get to watch all this game tape. We get to figure out how exactly we're going to go about stopping Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to figure out how we're going to run our offense to continue to get that mid-range look for Chris Paul and to continue to get the looks that we want to get. And I think that is a massive advantage.
Yeah, and I also think there's something to be said for the fact that you cannot, in my mind, get enough rest at this time of the year. So knowing that the Suns are probably going to have anywhere between 5 and 7 days off before they play again, I think obviously that's a huge advantage for the Phoenix Suns. And when you talk about their age, when you talk about all of the things that the Suns battle on a regular basis, Chris Paul being injured, well, Chris Paul is going to come into the Western Conference Finals against who I think is going to be the Utah Jazz. And he is going to be as close to 100% as he can be, because he's going to have a bunch of time off. He managed to make it through the Nuggets series pretty well undinged. That shoulder looks 100%. That lethal mid-range game is back. To me, Jake, I think the Suns are ideally positioned to go to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, you just couldn't ask for a better setup if you were an NBA team trying to make a finals run. You're going to get the rest. You get the advantage of watching your next opponent, whether that is the Jazz or the Clippers. So there really is no excuse not to come out and be successful. And I do think the only question that would be left for the Suns is, all right, well, do we have home court advantage or not? That's really the only question you have left. And so I think at the end of the day, if you're the Jazz and you're a Jazz fan this morning, you're trying to dispatch the Clippers in 6. That's really, you're trying to win tonight, and then you're trying to go home and take care of business. That should be the mission.
Yeah, and if that happens, obviously that's best case scenario, because remember, you're going to play every other day here. You win tonight in Los Angeles to make it 3-1, and then on Wednesday you close out the series 4-1, and the weekend starts with the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
In any stretch, you're looking at a very well-rested Phoenix Suns team. So I guess the question is, how pivotal is it for Mike Conley to play tonight? I think it's a must-play for him. I think Mike Conley now becomes a really important figure in this series. Mike's got to get healthy. Mike's got to prove he can get healthy and stay healthy, and that hamstring's not going to continue to be an issue, because if we learned anything in the Nuggets-Suns series, Chris Paul's mid-range game is still lethal, and when he's hitting that shot, he's unguardable. And Mike Conley is the guy that's going to have to change that. They're going to have to figure out what strategy that is. But if the Jazz are to make it to the Western Conference Finals, Mike Conley's got to be healthy. And if the Jazz are to win the Western Conference Finals and go to the NBA Finals, Mike Conley's got to be healthy.
Yeah, and I think the Mike Conley effect is more than just what he is. He brings to the points column for this team. I look at I look at the effect that Mike Conley has in terms of how much pick and roll they play, And they play a lot more pick and roll with Rudy Gobert when Mike Conley's in the game. And I think that makes life difficult for whoever they're playing. And so, it's this kind of conundrum for the Jazz right now where it's like, okay, well, we can't really – it's not a criticism of Mike. The fact is, just simply put, you can't trust his hamstring. I mean, you never know when it's going to go out. And I think – and we're going to get to the Nets, but if we learned anything from the Nets game yesterday, it's that injuries can play a massive role. And I think that Mike Conley, I'd like him to play tonight. They need to take control of this series. I think if you're playing a 3-game series with the Clippers after tonight, that's not a great place to be in. Now, sure, 2 of them are at home, so you feel good about that. You feel like, okay, we're going to go back home, we're going to win this series, but you just can't have this series bleed into next week, man. That cannot happen if you have NBA Finals aspirations.
No, and you the thing that you're really trying to avoid is the Friday night game. This can't be a 7-game series and have you feel good. This can't be a 6-game series and have you feel good going into the Western Conference Finals. If you were in a battle, if you're in a fight for your life, you're in real trouble in the Western Conference Finals because, again, not to be redundant, I think you have a situation where you have a well-rested, ready-to-go Phoneix Suns team. And that's a scary proposition for anybody in this league, as the Denver Nuggets found out. Now, Nikola Jokic being a complete idiot, it didn't help anybody's cause. But the Suns showed you, not to keep telling everybody how right I am, and I am right and good-looking, the Suns showed you win with the mid-range game. You demoralize with the 3-ball.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, frankly, Jake, I think the Jazz have to embrace the mid-range a little more. I think that Donovan Mitchell's an elite mid-range player, but I think one of the major talking points coming out of this Clipper series is hero ball from Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And listen, I know he's had big games, and I know that Donovan Mitchell is an elite scorer in this league. You've got to move the basketball. When he's shooting 1-on-3, there were a couple possessions where he was 1-on-4. I don't need Donovan Mitchell tweaking his ankle in the lane. Move the basketball. I don't need Donovan Mitchell attacking the basket, time in and time out. I need you to move the basketball. And if that happens to come back to you, that's great.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10 it does. But I'm telling you right now, if Donovan Mitchell continues to play hero ball, they're going to lose this series.
Yeah, and we saw the repercussions of that in the game. I mean, we watched the game together, and we had talked all about how we didn't get that. That swinging of the ball around the arc out of the Jazz that just turns into beautiful basketball that typically gets them a wide open look, whether it's on the weak side wing or the weak side corner. I mean, we didn't see almost any of that. We didn't see any really of Rudy Gobert playing pick and roll. He was setting picks, but there was no mission to get him involved on the offensive end. Now, he did have a big game. I think he had 20 and 13 or whatever, so he had a nice game, but I just think that Rudy.
No, Rudy had 12 and 10.
Oh, he had 12 and 10. Okay, so I mean average game by his.
But that's an important point though.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting not very much from Rudy Gobert offensively. He is a non-factor offensively, and usually we can talk pick and roll, and usually we can talk screens, and that's just not been a huge part of their game, as far as Rudy Gobert goes. He's setting that screen, and then the Clippers don't have to pay much attention to him.
Right.
And I think that's a huge problem for the Jazz.
Yeah, and I think the Clippers, it's tough because part of me is like, okay, the first 2 games, the Jazz dominated this team. But then I'm like, okay, you go to LA game 3 and they weathered your storm and they had control of that game and they did fine. They played the defense that we would have expected, and I think that making the adjustment to put Kawhi on Don basically the whole game that he was on the floor is huge. And everyone was talking about, well, hey, Kawhi and Paul George are playing heavy minutes, and I'm just saying these aren't heavy minutes. No. This is postseason basketball, bro. This is exactly what you would expect out of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Now,
these are not. It's not a huge workload.
Yeah. I mean, it is by NBA standards. It's a big workload, but that's what they signed up for. I mean,
Paul George played 38. Kawhi Leonard played 38.
Yeah.
They both took 24 shots. To me, that's not a huge workload. And I will again point to how they did that. How did Kawhi get his? Well, he got it in the mid-range.
Yeah.
Those open mid-range looks that the Jazz, we saw it a little bit in the Memphis series, but Memphis wasn't quality enough to punish the Jazz in the mid-range. The Phoneix Suns are quality enough to punish you in the mid-range. The LA Clippers showed you in game 3 that they were quality enough to punish you in the mid-range.
Yeah.
And that's something that Jazz are going to have to adjust to tonight if they want to win that game. I mean, I think we talked about this the other day, Saturday on the special show. It was very special. Thank you.
Right, special. Yeah.
Saturday on the special show, we talked about this, that, you have to adjust minute to minute, half to half, game by game. The Clippers have clearly done that. If you look at the way Luke Kennard is not being put into compromising situations, if you look at the way that Ty Lue used a rotation where he started Nick Batum, he brought Ivica Zubac off the bench, only played him 13 minutes.
Yeah.
Look at the uptick in minutes for Patrick Beverley. Now, you're going to get 2-3 bonehead moments a game from Patrick Beverley, and they certainly got that, right? He certainly delivered on that. Patrick Beverley made a difference defensively. And I think he started getting into Donovan Mitchell, and I think we saw Donovan react in a negative way, that he got much more aggressive, and that aggression means that Donovan Mitchell took 24 shots. No other starter had even half that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would point out, when we talk about hero ball with Donovan Mitchell, what did we finally see? We finally saw Joe Ingles have a really good, effective shooting night.
Yeah.
And he only shot the ball 11 times. And to me, that you got to move the ball there. I look at Bojan Bogdanovic. We've talked about this, and I'm sorry if you're tired of hearing this. We talked about Bojan Bogdanovic at length on this show for the past 2 months. Bojan only takes 10 shots, 9 points. You're not winning if that's his line.
10 shots should be getting him 20-something.
But you know what? He needs 15, 17 shots a game.
Yeah.
The problem is when you have Don taking 24, Jordan Clarkson taking 16 off the bench, there's only so many shots to go around. I mean, they only take, 75, 80 shots a game?
Yeah.
I mean, right. You're really limiting the ability to spread the basketball when you have Don take 24. Okay, he's your best player, no doubt about it.
Yeah, but there's a balance there. I mean, you can't have you can't have. I definitely felt like he did play hero ball. I don't think that's a unrealistic characterization of what he did. I mean, there were definitely times where it was like, okay, you're forcing up shots, and this is also something that needs to be talked about. I think that learning how to stay disciplined with how you play the game when adversity hits you, it's definitely a muscle that the top players flex, and I think that. I'm not sitting here saying that Don can't make that adjustment in, game out basis. Like, I do think that in game 4 here that you're gonna see a lot more ball movement out of the Jazz. I'd be shocked if you didn't see a lot more pick and roll with Rudy, because the Clippers are just coming out and saying, okay, we're gonna give you Rudy Gobert, and it's up to you to take him or not. I mean, we're gonna let you use him, but we're going to get out and run and outpace him down the floor.
Well, and you better have Mike Conley on the floor tonight. I don't see any way he doesn't play tonight unless he's just not physically able. And I think Jazz fans, you're going to get a really good look at Mike Conley's ability to play. If he's healthy enough, he needs to play.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't play tonight, now you have to start wondering, when is Mike Conley going to play again? I'm not worried about Don's ankle. Frankly, I was a little surprised that they went through this theatrics of wrapping and icing it and him limping off the floor after the game. Why would you do that in public? Why would you show that to everybody? That was a little surprising to me.
Yeah. But I don't know why you wouldn't have him just go back.
I don't know. And everybody says, well, he's not LeBron. He's not LeBron and Lesoc, and he's not abandoning his team on the bench.
Here we go.
Please. If you're Donovan Mitchell, you are the only thing that matters to this Utah Jazz team. They're not beating the Clippers without Donovan.
Yeah.
Send him to the locker room and start treatment right now. Whether that's stem, ice, whatever it is, start that treatment right now. Because I don't need Don sitting on the bench sulking. I don't need to see the trainer wrapping his ankle in ice. I don't want the Clippers to see them wrapping his ankle in ice. I don't. I don't need him limping off the floor, frankly. And I think there's part of this that is mental. Are the Jazz capable of playing the mental and winning the mental game? That's a huge question mark. All championship teams do it. Who won the mental game between Phoenix and Denver last night?
Yeah.
Pretty handily, Phoenix won it. And to me, the Clippers got in the Jazz head on Saturday night. And I think you're going to have to change that. All right, let's get some of the comments rolling here. Driftwood first in. He says, yo.
Hello.
LVL 307 says, what's up, fellas, from Manila? Good to see you. Thank you, Manila. Driftwood also says, Jazz will be fine. They missed so many easy shots at the rim. Didn't play any defense and were in single digits in the fourth quarter. Okay, so we've talked about this defensive conversation with the Jazz in the past. The Jazz, how do we say this? The Jazz lack athletic ability. Athleticism is clearly in favor of the opponent on most nights.
Yeah.
The defense has not been elite for a good long while. And it really is teams breaking the paint on the Jazz and hitting jump shots. And against a lower team like Memphis, you can get away with that. You can just simply step up. Against a team like the Clippers, they're going to pass out of that. And when you're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA, the Clippers, you don't have to be limited. And when your guys are not scared, you don't have to be limited.
Yeah.
So when you can bring in a guy like Luke Kennard, who I know that you guys, a bunch of people in the comments last week were razzing me because I said Luke Kennard to be a difference maker in this series.
Who the f*** is that guy?
Well, Luke Kennard's been a difference maker in this series because what does Luke Kennard do? He's an emergency valve. He's a guy that Kawhi Leonard's going to kick the ball to and he's going to drop a three.
Yeah.
He's a guy in Luke Kennard who can't defend me. So when Donovan Mitchell's on the floor, Luke Kennard usually will not be. But that's then why they have a guy like Nick Batum. What's Nick Batum doing? Dropping threes. What's Nick Batum doing? Playing pretty damn solid defense on the perimeter. And he's not a critical player for them. Those are the guys that are making the difference in this series. Paul George has been dog-king for games 1 and 2. He comes out and finally scores a bunch of buckets in game 3. Kawhi scores a bunch of buckets in the mid-range in game 3, and they win. And in my opinion, they won because they pushed out. They had hands up. And, I see a bunch of people commenting on George Niang. The role players for the Jazz didn't do their job the other night.
Yeah.
And you've got it. George Niang's got one job. Hit open three-point jumpers. Because they're there, and there's a plethora of them. And he didn't do that, Jake, and I think that's why the Clippers won that game.
Yeah, well, and I also think defensively the Clippers, they basically made up their mind that they're not going to let Donovan Mitchell just go off. I mean, Donovan Mitchell made shots. He hit some of those threes, but for the most part, you did not get the, hey, we're going to come down and make like 5 threes in a row and take over this game and that whole thing that the Jazz run out on teams, and I think that you not allowing the Jazz to have those momentum shifts where they just take over a game is huge. I mean, you're gonna, and I said this multiple times watching that game. You're gonna have to live with Don hitting the 30-foot three. He's going to do that. It's not a good shot,
and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and so you're gonna have to live with that. That's fine. But what we can't have is Don making those. Then Don driving and kicking the bogey, and he's making those, and then swinging the ball around, and they're making those. Like,
and
you can't
again,
have that.
what did the Clippers do? Full court pass intercepted leads to a three.
Yeah,
they limited that though.
Yeah,
they limited.
They had stupid turnovers. They still have those.
Well,
I mean, and that's what. Ultimately, that's why I think the Jazz will win this series, because I think the Clippers are a team that tends to make really stupid mistakes where you're just like, dude, like Paul George passing from the weak side wing to the strong side corner, that pass is never getting completed in an NBA game, and I don't know what he thought he was going to do.
And what is Jordan Clarkson's addiction to traveling lately?
Yeah, I don't know.
This double dribble where he gets up in the air and then there's
he
just
gets
nothing
trapped.
he can do
you
with
can't
the
leave your feet.
How many that happened? That's happened 2-3 times in the last couple of games.
Yeah.
The Jazz are doing things because they're being pressed defensively.
Yes.
And you're asking Jordan Clarkson to get into the paint and finish. That's not his game. His game is shooting threes, and his game is that pull-up jumper in the paint. He's not a guy that gets to the basket to finish very often. And I think you're asking guys to do things they're not comfortable with. George Niang's not a passer. We saw him turn the ball over several times.
Yep.
I look at Joe Ingles. He's not a point guard. He's being pressed in the point guard duty, but he's not a point guard. It's not what's best for his game. Donovan Mitchell is not a guy that should be taking 25, 30 shots a game because that's not where the Jazz win. The Jazz win by not playing hero ball. The Jazz win by distributing the ball well.
And I think that they haven't seen a lot of they haven't seen a lot of teams press them defensively like the Clippers have. I mean, I think no matter what you think of the Clippers, I think we can all agree that the Clippers are uniquely built to play defense. I mean, they have a lot of guys that are long, lanky guys who are really athletic. Yeah, and so they can pick you up. Again, Pat Bev can pick up Donovan 94 feet and force him to work his ass off to get across the timing line. And then I think about, you were just talking about, the couple turnovers for Bogey and Niang, and like those couple turnovers for each player wind up being 10, 12, 15 turnovers. I think they wound up with like 18 turnovers or something, and the Clippers had like 25 points off of that.
23 points off of turnovers,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So think about that. Think about how that plays into the game. I mean, if you just turn it over 5 less times, you're talking about potentially winning that game.
16 turnovers, 24 points.
Yeah, and this isn't, Jazz fans are going to say, okay, well, it's just easy. We can easily just say we're not going to turn it over as much. But the fact is that when you've got a really athletic defender playing, essentially man coverage, press defense on a non-ball handling guy, you're going to turn the ball over. That's going to happen.
And by the way, I would point out that stat I always bring up on this show. What stat am I going to bring up right now?
I don't know. What's that?
Points in the paint. 44-32 Clippers.
Yeah.
And it's because Kawhi and Paul George were knocking down that mid-range shot. And you look at, again, I'll look at three-point percentage, 52.8% for the Clippers, 43% for the Jazz.
Yeah.
Are we really in a place where the Jazz have to shoot 50% from 3 to win?
Yes, you are.
I've
talked about that at length.
But that's kind of the pattern that's being that's developing here, is that the Jazz are so reliant on the three-point shot now that if they make 43% from 3, they lose.
Which, by the way, is
terrifying.
Well above league average.
Yeah, that's terrifying. That is terrifying. Driftwood says, I'm not blaming Niang for this loss, but I'm blaming him for squandering our last real chance to get back into the game in the fourth. Ill-advised 3 and back-to-back turnovers. Bad passes, yeah. I would agree with that. AK says, good morning, mates. Good morning to you, sir. Eugene 12 says, is Donovan or Mike playing? Mike Conley is questionable. I got to believe he plays.
Yeah.
I think Donovan Mitchell's fine. I think he's going to play. Braden Christensen says the Jazz need to play Rudy more minutes if they want to win this series. Quinn and the Jazz need to go all out to win this series and the rest of the playoffs. But here's the problem. And again, I know we have beat this topic to death. It's a dead horse. It's a drum, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
You can't play Rudy more minutes because he is so limited offensively. You're forcing guys to do things that they're not comfortable doing because the Clippers don't really have to respect Rudy Gobert. Patrick Beverley was guarding Rudy Gobert at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's never getting the ball. What did you say Saturday? Joe Ingles is getting pick and roll action with Rudy Gobert and never even looks at Rudy.
He doesn't even look at him. He's looking to his left the whole time. It's amazing.
This is why Mike Conley has to play.
Yeah.
Because Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert have incredible chemistry, and Rudy Gobert off the lob from Mike Conley is something that is missing in this series.
Yeah.
The question is that because the Clippers are taking Rudy Gobert away or the Jazz aren't trying to do that? That, to me, is a big question. And, frankly, I don't know the answer to that. Sullivan on Twitter says, finally, you're talking about Rudy Gobert in a sensical fashion. Well, you can say how are we being at all?
How have we been nonsensical? Help me understand. Like, what does it take that you think is nonsensical? We've been talking about, again, like you were just saying, not to repeat the same thing you just said, but we've been talking about Rudy for how long? I mean, we've been talking about the fact when Mike Conley's out, Rudy Gobert's production goes down. We've been talking about that for a long time.
And this Utah Jazz team struggles when Rudy does well.
Yeah.
It's a problem because for him to do well, you got to shoot a poor percentage from 3. So it's this double-edged sword. He is so elite defensively, Rudy. He means so much to you defensively. He really is the straw that stirs the drink on that end. But I continue to believe that Rudy Gobert is a liability offensively.
Yeah.
And it really gives the Clippers a big advantage. They were playing a 1-2-2 zone the other night. And Rudy just he didn't know what to do. So not only were they not playing a 2-3 zone, which is your standard typical zone in the NBA, Ty Lue, who I know everybody said on this show Friday or Thursday and Saturday that Ty Lue sucks and he can't coach.
Hell out of here with that.
Well, I got news for you. He can coach. Look at you already with an Aaron Boone drop from yesterday.
Hey, man.
Ty Lue didn't come out in a 2-3 zone. He came out in a 1-2-2, and it completely fooled Rudy Gobert. Rudy did not know what to do. And to me, Ty Lue's adjustments have been spectacular in this series. They won game 3 because Ty Lue played Pat Bev more, played that zone, altered that zone, went from a 1-2-2 to a 2-3 at times. They took Rudy Gobert out of this game. Yeah. Rudy's always going to have his moments with putback dunks, always.
Yeah.
But when you force him to put the ball on the floor, Rudy Gobert's a non-factor.
His shooting percentage, I saw a stat on Twitter. I don't remember who it was, but basically the stat is that when you pass Rudy Gobert the ball and he doesn't have to dribble, his shooting percentage is like 60 or 70%.
Yes.
And when he has to dribble at one time, it's like 40%. So
no, I believe it's 32%. When you make Rudy Gobert put the ball on the floor, his finishing percentage is 32%. It's incredible the difference. And the way that you make Rudy put the ball down is you take his space away. Whether he's a foot from the basket or 3 feet from the basket, when you take his space away, he can't jump. Because, again, I know this is another controversial thing that pisses people off. Rudy Gobert's not a great athlete.
Yeah.
He is not a guy that is mobile, that is, he's not a Donovan Mitchell type athlete. He is not a Joel Embiid type athlete who can dribble and put the ball between his legs. And he is a big human being with long legs and long arms who I wish had a killer instinct, who I wish would work on ball handling. But he hasn't, and he doesn't. And to me, that's the difference. And this is why I say, unbelievable defensive player, absolutely worthy of Defensive Player of the Year. By the way, what a coward Ben Simmons is. Did anybody see Ben Simmons said, I wasn't trying to win the award?
Sure you weren't.
Shut up, man.
Sure you weren't.
Rudy Gobert ran away with that award. He deserved it. He earned it. There's no doubt. He's a liability offensively. There's no doubt. So I would just kind of keep that in mind. Jeremy Bolton says, I think Game 3 shows how much the Jazz need Conley. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I couldn't have said it better. Cream Pie Lars. I don't want to know. Do you think? Okay, no. See, now I got to go and ban. Lars. Come on.
See, now that's just not the way to go here, Karen.
Come on, bro. You can't be. Don't be coming in here. Talking all about messes. Anyway, NBA is soft. Jokic should have stayed in the game. Jordan Crabtree says.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. He hit the guy in the face. I mean,
Okay, so I'm just curious. What fouls do you want called then? Because the very definition of a flagrant 2 is exactly what Nikola Jokic did. He swung wildly. His intent was not to get the basketball. It was not a basketball play. He fully hit Cameron Payne in the face. What choice did the officials have in that game but to call a flagrant 2 and eject Nikola Jokic?
Yeah.
He should not have been in the game.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I mean, the definition is the
And by the
definition.
way, I'd just like to point out, the Suns essentially forced that out of Jokic.
They frustrated him.
They frustrated him. They beat him mentally, and I think that yes, he's the MVP this year, but I think those kind of moments should give you appreciation for the guys in the game who never seem to get beat mentally.
Yeah, and by the way, Jokic said after the game that he was trying to change the momentum, that he was trying to inject energy. He wasn't trying to get the basketball. He said straight away, I was trying to commit a hard foul.
Yeah.
And when that's not who you are, Rudy Gobert, when that's not who you are, it stands out like a sore thumb to the officials when you try to be that guy.
If he didn't hit him in the face, it would have been fine. But you straight up hit the guy in the face, and you didn't get any of the ball, dude. Like, come on.
I don't understand how that is. I just don't. I mean, anyway, the point is, I look at the definition, and it's just, you look at a penalty too, and it is unnecessary and excessive contact committed by a player against an opponent. It was unnecessary, excessive content.
Hello, Donnie.
Unnecessary, excessive contact. Against Cameron Payne. He hit him in the face. And then the thing that really bothered me was after the game, Jokic is like, oh, I don't know, I didn't hit him. The video shows very clearly you hit him with your bicep across the bridge of his nose. That's a flagrant 2. He shouldn't have been there. And by the way, let's not make excuses for the Denver Nuggets. They got dominated by arguably the best team in the NBA right now.
You didn't get a win in the series, bro. Come on.
Yeah. LBL 307 says Clippers attack the rim. Mick says, I'm not sure what Jazz defense we're talking about because they don't play defense. I mean, it is. This has been a month-long discussion on this show. If you're new to the show or you haven't seen it, first of all, hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate you being here and watching the show. But we've talked a lot about the fact that the Jazz are really good defensively against Memphis, right? They're really good defensively against certain styles of teams. But why did they lose to Charlotte? Why did they lose to Philly? Why did they lose to Minnesota? Because those teams are athletic and they attack the basket.
Yeah.
And when you look at the way the Clippers are attacking Rudy Gobert, a lot of guys start watching. Like, you have to, defense in the NBA is a team sport. If you watch the way the Clippers defend, they don't have a big that shot blocks, right? But yet, what are they getting? Shot blocks out of Zubats, shot blocks out of Batum, shot blocks out of Kawhi Leonard, because it's a team game. Those are not individual, I'm going to go up and block your shot a la Rudy Gobert. They're, hey, one guy stops you, you have to hesitate, and it allows guys to close on you, and that's how you get your shot blocked.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where when you don't have athletic ability or you're not a dominant athlete, you're going to go against Ivica Zubats, and he's going to block your shot. So that's, I think, what we're seeing from the Jazz. They are not an elite athletic team. So and this is what should scare you against the Suns in the Western Conference Finals, because I still think the Jazz are getting there. I don't know how you match up with them athletically, because let's just say Mike Conley and Chris Paul go head-to-head. Okay, let's just say that Donovan Mitchell and
Mikal Bridges.
Well, I think who's going to check? Here's the question. Are you going to put Royce O'Neal on Devin Booker, which you had done?
Yes, you will.
Right?
Yep.
So then who does Donovan Mitchell guard? Because he's not long enough to guard a Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has shown you he doesn't rely on that corner 3 to score.
Well, yeah, that's true. The thing is that the problem that the Suns present for you, if you're the Jazz, is that they play with incredible pace. So I think the one thing that we can take away out of this Denver series, there's a lot of things, but one of the major things that I think you've seen out of this Suns team is they're happy to play with a ton of pace. And the fact is that they did that in Denver, which I think is massively impressive. I mean, you're talking about going to Denver, playing at altitude, and still playing with pace. And I'm not saying pace as in, hey, they just like to run up and down and they don't run traditional offense. I'm talking about, hey, they're getting the rebound and they're being intentional about getting back down to the offensive end. Yes, before you get set. And I think about it. I mean, if you're playing a team like the Jazz who have Rudy, you're going to beat Rudy Gobert down to the offensive end a lot. And I think that's going to lead to, good opportunities for you.
And how is DeAndre Ayton being effective right now for the Suns?
He's playing defense. Straight up, he's playing great defense.
He is. Well, but the other thing he's doing is rim running.
Yeah.
He is playing defense, and then he is sprinting down the floor. And Rudy, being a longer-legged guy, is going to have trouble keeping up with a guy like DeAndre Ayton, who's a superior athlete to Rudy Gobert. Now, Rudy should be able to, I think, compete with him on the boards. I just don't think DeAndre Ayton's a great catcher of the basketball.
No, that's very clear.
But what I would say is that DeAndre Ayton can jump with Rudy Gobert. DeAndre Ayton's got a nice little jump shot, and DeAndre Ayton has really worked on his offensive rebounding. It's going to be a tough matchup. This is a tough matchup for the Jazz. By the way, you got to get past the Suns first.
The Clippers.
Or the Clippers first, excuse me. And I think you will. I think tonight is a must-win for the Utah Jazz. Michael Burton says, I think the Jazz aren't looking for Gobert in the paint, and therefore the Clippers haven't been pushed into the paint to defend it. Sometimes working inside, then moving it out opens up the offense. But has Rudy Gobert ever shown the ability to play outside in? Or inside out, excuse me. Have you ever been able to lob him the ball in the post with his back to the basket? No. Okay, let's play pick and roll, and you throw him the ball. The only way to throw Rudy Gobert the ball in the pick and roll is to lob it to him so that he can dunk it. The Clippers aren't going to give you that. I think it would be very difficult for the Jazz to all of a sudden find a way for Rudy Gobert to run offense through him. Inside out. I just don't see how you do that at this late point in the season, and it's a risk in this series.
Yeah.
I think what you have to do is you got to get Mike Conley on the floor, and you have to hope that Donovan Mitchell's ankle holds up.
Well, and I think you got to move the ball more. I mean, we can't. The Jazz cannot continue to play this stagnant form of offense. I mean, I don't know. And again, this is something we've talked about many, many times, man. And this is not the first time or the last time it's going to get brought up, where the Jazz just get into this sequence where they don't move the basketball, and they're not good enough to not move the basketball and still beat you. That's just not who they are. And
it's becoming a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
Where the ball doesn't move.
Well, and the defensive pressure too is forcing them it's making them uncomfortable, and it's taking them out of their mental approach. So you're not able to just walk it up and get into your offense.
But that ball reversal that the Jazz use when they're playing well is lethal. I mean, there's no way to defend it, and the Jazz shoot the three at such a high clip that I don't see how that's not a staple of your offense.
Yeah, how are you not committed to that?
But it's going away because you have Donovan Mitchell trying to go hero ball again. And I would love to see this in our YouTube comments. Do you guys agree that Donovan Mitchell's playing hero ball? And by hero ball, I mean going 1-on-3, 1-on-4 at the rim, shooting over double team, shooting from 30 feet, shooting from the three-quarter court stripe. Like just constantly.
Yeah.
Constant. And hey, 45 points at home is great. Kept the crowd engaged. They were lit. Like Jazz fans are awesome. Totally get that. It doesn't work on the road because your role players will routinely go away on the road. And again, when we were talking about this series and what the questions were about this series, which of the Jazz secondary players are going to step up to make a difference in this game tonight? Because you would expect, much like the Clippers, you'd expect to get 20, 30 out of Don. If Mike Conley plays, you'd expect to get 20 out of Mike Conley.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now who else? Okay, Jordan Clarkson, 15 points, let's say, right? Like, I look at, if Mike Conley plays, Jordan Clarkson's minutes go down.
Which is fine.
Which is fine.
But you need the assist numbers as a team to go up.
He's not going to play, game. Yes, he's not going to play 31 minutes, no. Jordan Clarkson. Okay, so give me 15 points.
I don't know that Conley's going to touch 30 minutes, to be honest with you. I think that's a real question.
Well, and that's going to be really interesting to watch is what role and how much impact will Mike Conley be able to have with this hamstring situation. Because, frankly, I think it's a major, major problem.
You can't have him come back to the floor and then suffer a season-ending injury the way Harden had it done to him.
No, the way that Will Barton missed months. Months. And you're looking at James Harden, who's missing weeks now. You're looking at Kyrie Irving with a severe, my ankle fell off my leg thing.
Dude.
That's a weeks-long injury.
Yeah.
You can't risk that with Mike Conley. And if Mike Conley doesn't come back tonight, I don't know that they can beat the Clippers in LA. Because you're not getting it from Boyan. You're not getting it from guys like Niang. You're not getting it from, like Derek Favors has to score. He's got to give you 6-8 points.
But here's the problem. Again, the issue is that the Clippers are not going to take their foot off the gas defensively. You're not going to have all this breathing space that you had in the regular season. And again, we've been telling you that. I mean, we've been telling you that we've been waiting for a team, and we thought it would be the Clippers because they're capable enough. We've been waiting for a team to roll out a high-pressure defense on this Jazz team because think about it. What does this team turn into when they don't get the wide open 3-point look? They make the wide open 3-point look, 9 times out of 10. But if you take that away from them, what do they turn into?
Hero ball.
Because it's not good,
No,
and
not
so,
at all.
I think, it was one game. Sure, we can say that it was one game. This game tonight, I agree, is a must-win from a comfort perspective, from a want to be in a good position to play the Suns perspective. If you are serious about winning a championship this year, this is a must-win game tonight. You've got to split in LA and then go home and handle your business. That's what has to happen.
I again will say Bojan Bogdanovic has to be the guy to step up here.
Yeah, well, the problem
he's got to.
The problem is it's not up to Bojan. It's not up to him.
No, because he's not a guy that demands the ball or creates for himself.
No, he's got to make the corner three, and he's got to. That when he gets the ball in the post, he's got to produce.
It's deliberate. It has to be deliberate for Bojan Bogdanovic to have a big night. They have to give him the ball. I mean, you look at that Denver game where he scored 47 or whatever it was
without
Donovan Mitchell, and I think you're seeing that's not going to happen here. So. That's why I tip my cat to Joe Ingles, who I thought gave you a great game. They needed to feed Joe Ingles the basketball, but Hero Ball took that away.
Yeah,
and
it was frustrating to watch, no doubt.
I'm just telling you, it's a real thing. Robbie Farr says, Monty, Spida can check Bridges. Come on now. I'm with you that Phoenix is a tough matchup, but that comment is a stretch. It's not a stretch because what you see Mikal Bridges do is he breaks your defense down.
Yeah.
So he's going to drive past you with the sole purpose of kicking the ball out. And if Jay Crowder's going to shoot the three the way he's shooting the three right now, and if Jay Crowder's going to block 3, 4, 5 shots a game.
He got nasty at the rim last night, dude.
Good luck beating the Suns. It's not that Mikal Bridges scores. The issue is he breaks your defense down. It's the same thing with Cam Johnson. When Cam Johnson doesn't shoot the three and he attacks the basket, they're a much better basketball team. And it's why I will continue to say the best teams in the NBA dominate the mid-range. And I know it sounds crazy, and I know it's one of the things I've criticized the Jazz for is I think they have gotten away from the paint. They have gotten away from the mid-range.
Yeah.
And it really hurts them because at some point you're going to go 0 for 21. Now, that happened and you won, but imagine going 0 for 21 at Staples Center. Yeah. You're going to get blown out.
Yeah.
You're going to get blown out.
Well, and you were on the verge of that a couple times in this game the other day.
Yeah, but it shows the Jazz are a better team than the Clippers. But the Jazz the discipline, and this is why also when we talk about teams who have been there and done that, and the experience of being there and doing that, it's critically important because teams who have been there and done that don't play hero ball. Kawhi Leonard doesn't mind giving up a look to get somebody a better look. You cannot, if you are the Utah Jazz, fall back into bad habits. You've got to come out and be the disciplined, lethal, shoot the lights out basketball team that we all know you want to be.
But I just don't think that that's going to happen against this Clippers defense. I feel like
tough.
They finally figured out what they have to do as a team to make life difficult on the Jazz. And I think, again, it should be said, nobody is going to stop the Jazz from shooting 40% from three. They're going to shoot 40% from three, whether you like it or not, no matter what you do. And the question just simply is, are they going to shoot 40 or are they going to shoot 50? Because if they shoot 50, the game's over. You're not winning that game.
Well, Jeremy Bolton brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Game 3, Don definitely played hero ball. But he kind of had to, right? You're 100% right. Role players weren't doing anything, no Conley, etc. He had to. Role players weren't doing anything because Donovan Mitchell was playing hero ball.
He wasn't getting them involved.
When is the last time that you can honestly remember Donovan Mitchell breaking the paint and kicking the ball out? I don't remember either because it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When Donovan Mitchell drives to the basket, he's trying to score, period. And defenses know that. Why do you think he's going 1-on-3, 1-on-4?
And why do you think they're making him go left?
Because they're collapsing, and they know that he I agree with you 100% on that. I think you got to make Donovan Mitchell go left.
He was going left and trying to finish with his right hand on the left side of the basket. That tells you everything
very
you need
difficult.
to know.
I'm just telling you, if Donovan Mitchell, this is the Jordan Clarkson conversation. If Jordan Clarkson would break the paint and kick, That's an open three for one of the best three-point shooting teams in the history of the NBA.
It's the age-old discussion in the NBA with superstars. Why do you think LeBron has had so much success in his career? Because he drives and then he kicks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that formula has always worked in the league.
Jackson says, yes, too many times he had Bogey wide open in the corner and forced up shots, but I'm sure he watched the tape and realized that. Well, adjustments win series.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I say this game tonight, it is now the game of the series because the Clippers came out, and again, I want to reference this. If they weren't going to show you their best in Game 3, I don't know when it was going to come out. So that was kind of like that was definitely a must-win game for the Clippers. So I can kind of write that game off on some level if I'm a Jazz fan.
Yeah.
But this game tonight truly is a measuring stick game. If you come out and you lose this game, okay, now we're starting to have a real conversation about what this team is, the toughness of this team, the grittiness of this team, the resiliency of this team. Because if you're 2-2, you're essentially zeros here and playing a 3-game series, and you have home court advantage. So there's really no excuse not to go to the Western Conference Finals at this point. But I think going 7 games really, hurts your chances of making a title appearance.
And ask yourself this question, you've got a 3-game series on your hands. How many of the Jazz have ever been in that situation? I mean, obviously, Bojan and Indiana played some real important games. But Donovan's never been there. Don't worry about Donovan. He's a stud. Okay, I agree with that. Who else? I mean, you don't have a guy.
Conley
that's
in
played,
Memphis, maybe, but that was a while ago.
Yeah. I mean,
other than that, though,
but you don't worry about Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. You worry about Bojan Bogdanovic in a game where the Jazz were never really in position to win Game 3. And he had 9 points.
Yeah.
Those are the guys you worry about. Joe Ingles, those are the guys you worry about. You worry about your role players, your secondary players, your Jordan Clarksons. How tight does Jordan Clarkson squeeze the basketball? Well, you wonder, was that bank shot luck at home the other night? Because he wasn't getting a bank shot on a wild 3 in L.A.
But that's what I'm saying. They're taking these wild shots. These are, again, I love Don. I love watching him drill these long-range shots. He is not Stephen Curry. He is not Damian Lillard from that range. Like those are not
yet.
Those are, yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of work to do to solidify his ability to shoot from that distance. Those are not high percentage looks. Are they good shots when they go in? Yes, but they're awful shots when they don't go in, and they kill momentum. And so that's why I say, again, it's cool when he's making them, but again, the moment he starts missing those and he has a cold shooting night, this Jazz team's gonna be in trouble. I mean, think about it. What would have this game look like if Don didn't hit all those shots?
Oh, man.
Because those are not, honestly, by basketball standards, those are not good shots.
Oh, they're bad shots. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, that's a low percentage look, and he's just knocking it down.
And the funny thing is, he was talking about after Game 2 that he's happy to give the ball up when he gets doubled.
Yeah, well,
then give the ball up when you get doubled.
You did it at home, but you didn't do it on the road,
Yeah.
and that's the true testament of how good you are. And that's why I say the Jazz have not done anything that is special. You won 2 games at home. You handled your business. Now you got to show that you can win on the road.
Yep. Eugene says Bogey needs to show up. Yep. They need to help him show up. Tanner Plummer says, yes, Mitchell is playing hero ball. Jazz are screwed if he keeps doing it. My gut tells me the Jazz lose this series. Yeah, but you say the Jazz are going to lose every series in every game. Vision Gaming 2011 says, sorry I'm late. We've warned you about this.
Vision.
Going to be Suns' year, baby. The Jazz are – the funny thing is about this Suns win, they sweep the Nuggets, and it adds an aura of doom and gloom.
Intimidation.
Around the Jazz. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe it is intimidation.
It's intimidation.
It was one game.
But it's not one game, though. Yes, it was one game to win the series, but think about this. You could not beat the Nuggets in the bubble. You couldn't do it. And now this Jazz team has handled this Nuggets team, and you can run out the excuse, no Jamal Murray, okay, cool. But the fact is even a mediocre NBA team like, I don't know, the Memphis Grizzlies should be able to win one game in a series. And the Nuggets didn't come close. And that, to me, sweeping the Denver Nuggets, I don't think people understand how difficult that is. I mean, you have to be playing, really high-level NBA basketball, dude. That's crazy to me.
you got in their head. You dominated them mentally.
Bro, you made Nikola Jokic, the MVP, basically slap one of your role players. Notice he didn't do that to Chris Paul or Devin Booker.
No.
He did that to campaign, bro. A 15-point-a-night guy.
And admitted he was intentional about it.
Yeah. So, like, you broke them mentally. And that's why I say, again, this whole thing where you've got this dynamic now, and this should put some pressure on the Jazz. You've got this dynamic where the Suns are going to be sitting here watching your every move while you try to handle this Clipper team. And if this series goes 7, I'm telling you, there's no way you can feel good about that as a Jazz fan.
No, Dylan Membrilla, welcome to the show, Dylan, says the only way I see Mike coming back is if Utah is against the wall, break in case of emergency deal. Well, aren't you in kind of in that situation? If this goes 6 or 7,
dude, you cannot allow. Your back's against the wall now, and here's why. If you allow this series to get to 2-2, essentially what you've just done is you've said to the Clippers, okay, you can win this series now. Because right now, the Clippers have only won one game. They won one game.
It's no big deal.
It's no big deal. It was on the road. We didn't have a great night. It's just one game. It's not a big deal. But now if they win their second game at home, and then you're going back to Salt Lake, now Game 5 becomes a must-win game if you're the Utah Jazz. Because you can't lose Game 5 and then go back to L.A. and think that you're going to be able to bring this series back.
Yeah,
you can't have that. So that's why I say tonight, whether we're talking about, looking forward to the Western Conference Finals or just surviving this series, tonight is a must-win game for the Utah Jazz. And I know that sounds crazy based on like the surface level stuff, but if you really get into this is a must-win game for them. They got to do this.
And I will tell you this. The Clippers have been here before. Oh, I don't know, like last week.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing.
This is exactly what happened in the Mavs series.
But some people will tell you, hey, why are they, that's a knock on them. They always find themselves in these situations. No. And I think, yes, it is kind of curious why they're always in this situation, but you start to look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, they got their ass handed to them in the first 2 games. They made some adjustments, and now they were able to win a game. Now, again, same thing. I'll say the same thing about the Clippers that I said about the Jazz. This series has not gotten going yet, right? The road team has not won a game yet.
Yes.
So does that happen tonight? Or does that happen, in Game 6? Or Game 5, I guess that'd be. I don't know. We'll have to find out.
The Jazz need to end this series tonight.
Yeah, you do. You need to go up 3-1, and then you need to go home and you need to end the series.
It's over if you win tonight.
Yeah.
And that's why I say it's a must-win. Comment dump. I apologize for that. Spencer Morgan says, yes, Donovan Mitchell is playing hero ball. Boritin Design says, if they pass the Clippers, they can beat the Suns. Clippers are a better team defensively than the Suns. Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think you should watch some Suns basketball, my guy.
I don't know about that. And this is one of the things is we're about to get into slurping Devin Booker here in a minute. One of the things that was really impressive is Devin Booker is playing much better defense than he ever has.
Right.
And I think I would be careful with that assumption. Michael Burton says, yes, there were many times the ball didn't move in Game 3 and was easy to defend. And when players tried to attack solo, they turned it over or were stripped. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Jeremy Bolton says, 100% agree with you guys. That's what made the Jazz special this year. Their bench and role players were money.
And
Clarkson, Ingles, Niang. Yeah.
Move the damn ball.
When everyone is firing on all cylinders, the Jazz are almost unbeatable. But it's very difficult to fire on all cylinders against the Clippers because they take your space away.
Yeah.
James Knight says, yes, you're right, Jake. If Don has a cold night, he only drops 35 on a mofo.
Yeah, well, and I know that's kind of, I know that you're being kind of facetious with that, but think about it. I really want you guys to think about this. Don't just read the surface level stuff here. Don't just say, oh, the Jazz are up 2-1, they're fine. They're fine. They're fine. Right? You look into this a little more. I mean, think about it. In Game 1, he had like 45, right? Is that the 45 or 45 game? And he has this amazing game, and then he comes out with 38. Now he's come out with 35. Cool. Don's going to get his. That's fine. That Don scoring is not the issue.
No.
For the Clippers, you're almost okay with it. The Clippers' mindset is, hey, let's make life as difficult as possible for Donovan Mitchell with the understanding that he's just that good, right? But we can't allow Bogey or Jingles or Clarkson or Niang or any of these guys to get it going from 3, because if we do that, we're going to lose. And that's why I say you had to crack the code on making life difficult for Don. And what ends up happening is he wasn't prepared for that. So you get this stale no ball movement offense. So that's why I say tonight, I'm telling you, they are going to emphasize moving the ball.
Win tonight, and all this goes away.
Yeah. Simple as that.
It's as simple as that. And I think that some of this uncertainty is because the Suns are in the Western Conference Finals, and you're not.
Yeah.
You're still fighting to get there, and it's going to be a fight to get there. You've got to play at least 2 more games. And that's the bummer. You're going to go at least 5 in this series to get to the Western Conference Finals. They swept in 4. They're going to sit around for a week. And that, if you're the Utah Jazz, that brings a certain sense of, we better get going. James Knight says, way to create hysteria over one loss. Let's not forget the Clippers still have to beat the Jazz at Vivint Asylum.
I just said that.
I think we
10
just
minutes
said
ago,
that,
bro.
Yeah. Sean Mierzinski says, morning, guys. The Clippers, to me, I just can't trust them.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody trusts them, but they can beat you.
I love the don't create hysteria comment because all that tells me is you're worried about the Jazz. That's all that tells me because you're sitting here trying to twist our words into we're creating concern and worry. We're not creating anything. The fact is the Clippers figuring out how to slow down Donovan Mitchell and stop the Jazz from moving the ball. That's what should concern you. I mean, honestly, like if you really watch this team, right, and you really pay attention to the Jazz, the product that you saw on the floor in this last game was not good. And that's why I say tonight, again, just like you were saying, you win tonight, everything's fine. Win tonight, you're good.
Ace makes a really good point. It's not like the Clippers have played their best basketball either.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean they're reeling. They're still trying to figure out, what a good offense for them looks like. Because again, back to that comment about them being unreliable, the reason the Clippers are unreliable is because you can't trust Paul George.
And how about Paul George the other night when he was asked about Joe Ingles?
Yeah.
Going full next question. I'm not talking about that guy.
Okay, fuck you.
Yeah, right? That was
Yeah.
it shows you that there is still a mental game to be played here.
Yes.
So, and yeah, I agree. The Clippers haven't played their best basketball either. When do you guys think Mike will be back? Corey
Tonight.
Grokokok
Tonight.
asks.
He will play tonight, in my opinion. He will play tonight.
Grow a crowcock. Robbie Farr says Suns are scary. They're the ultimate team. Wing depth and coaching. Monty Williams.
It's impressive.
Really impressive. Dylan Membrilla says, I don't see Quinn putting Niang in for important minutes anymore. Either took all the momentum away with the 3 turnovers in 5 minutes in game 3. And again, the problem with this is that's how you win and lose series. Your role players, and if you go back through history, it's Cantavius Caldwell-Pope last year shooting the Lakers to a championship. Steve Kerr, John Paxson, Horace Grant. For the Bulls, like you look at the dynasty teams, certainly when the Warriors were winning, I don't think anybody would say Draymond was their most important player until you realize Draymond was their most important player. And yes, you're always going to get contributions out of guys like Donovan Mitchell, but you have got to find a way to get Bojan Bogdanović to step up and be that guy.
Yeah.
You can't go away from George Niang because he's part of the bus, the minivan.
The side door's open.
Now, again, to tell you how right we always are, we've questioned the depth on this Jazz team for a long time.
Yep.
And and to talk about Joe Ingles.
Yep.
When Joe Ingles is coming off the bench, the Jazz are a far better team. And when he starts and it's Point Jingles, takes a lot of depth away. And you finally got a big performance out of Joe Ingles, and you lost. And that's part, there are just some trends in game 3 that
they're concerning.
I love the idea of just throwing that game away, and I wish they could. I wish they could just be like, F it was one game, Don got hurt, George sucks, like the minivan had a flat tire, I don't know if it works that way, because what's George Niang going to do when he gets the ball the first time tonight?
Depends. How is he getting the ball? I mean, is he getting the ball when they're swinging it and the Clippers are on the carousel, or is he getting the ball when they're just playing straight up and the ball hasn't really moved too much?
I just don't think George Niang, I'm going to say he's a key player. He's open from 3 a lot.
Yeah.
And part of their success this year has been George Niang hitting open threes. And then when people run at him, what does he do? He breaks down and goes to the basket. Like he is an important player. Your 15-minute guys are like Derek Favors. How critical has Derek Favors been?
Huge.
You've got to continue to play him, and he's got to get you 6, 8, 10 points. Those twos from Derek Favors, those threes from George Niang, that's what got you here. You can't abandon that.
Here's the thing that at the end of the day, like the one thing that I can't get away from as somebody who follows the Jazz consistently in almost every single game, the Clippers have found a way in one game. It's one game, I understand, but now they can replicate it. They've found a way to prevent the Jazz from getting what I like to call the carousel going, which is, hey, we're going to get the ball moving, we're going to make you run around, and eventually you're going to make a defensive rotation mistake, and that's going to lead to an open three. They have been relying on that all season long, which is why they're able to shoot 40, 50% from three, because they're getting just wide open, like nobody even in the vicinity of their shooter. And the Clippers have figured out how to prevent that process from starting. And that's why you see more turnovers. That's why you see a lower shooting percentage. And that's why I say this game tonight, if you're the Utah Jazz, you have to retake control. Because after the first two games, everybody, Cody Strickland and his mom were talking about how this was going to be, a 4-game sweep and everything was going to be great.
Hey, where are my Cokes?
Where are my Cokes?
Give me my Cokes.
And now all of a sudden it's we're going to win in 5. Well, what happens if you lose this game tonight? Then how are you feeling? Because that...
Well, we're winning in 6. Buy me a Coke.
Yeah, whatever, dude. I'm just telling you, this is a must-win game for the Jazz.